Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk about being happy in real life. And this comes on the heels of yet another TikToker influencer deciding to take her own life whilst portraying this life of joy and luxury and happiness. It's really sad to me. I think I've made one video like this before where I've talked about being happy in real life, because that's more important than anything. Once you make a certain amount of money, once you have everything you've ever wanted in your life, you still have to figure out how to be happy and be content with those things or without them. And what I'm seeing is that the movement for influencers to be on all the time is becoming too much, and people are performing joy, performing happiness, and performing contentment for their followers, and then crashing and burning behind the scenes from the weight of having to be perfect all the time. And that's just something that I think we have to release content creators from, and content creators need to release themselves from. And I want to talk about my own personal experience with just feeling depressed. And I want to be clear that like having a major depressive disorder or having something like bipolar is very different than having like an acute depression episode where you're feeling or maybe you're imbalanced for a short period of time, but it's not something that's long term. I want to make sure that I acknowledge that, because they are not the same thing. But I do want to talk about a realization that I had after getting married and realizing that I was doing a little bit of performing for people and having to pull back. And that saved me from a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, and a lot of feelings of deep depression. So, and I think I can relate to content creators. As a content creator myself, though my channel is very, very small, but I do on my Instagram, that is where I get a lot of clients for my fitness coaching business. So there is this need or pressure to perform optimal fitness and to be like this beacon of health and life and joy and happiness. And it can be debilitating, if I'm being honest with you guys. So let me tell you guys this story, and then I'll talk about what I want to talk about. After you get married, there's this expectation that you will just be in like wedded bliss and like everything's amazing. Your life is great, and people expect you to do that. Now, for me, it was true, but I felt this need to I felt this pressure to meet up with everybody and tell everybody how amazing it was and make sure that I'm, I don't know how to describe it, you guys, but it was very weird. I was like, so I found myself meeting up with people and people like, come out and come do this. And I was saying yes to all these things that I really didn't want to do. But then it was like, I didn't want people to think that I wasn't happy. So I was like, let me go out here and do this thing. But I was like, this is making me, it made me more depressed. Like there was a point where I was like, had crippling anxiety after I got married, because I never allowed myself to just be at home, which is what I like to do. Like I am a straight up homebody. I will go out every once in a while, but I'm an extreme introvert. I do not like having to go out and perform joy for people, because if I don't, then people are like, are you happy at home? Are you happy? Are you not happily married? Like, why? You know what I mean? Do you guys know what I'm trying to say? Please leave a comment if you know what I'm trying to say. So I found myself in this position where I was performing joy for people so that they wouldn't question whether or not I was happy in my marriage. Of course I was happy in my marriage. But I was also dealing with a ton of stuff, you guys. I moved 60 miles away from my original home. My business was so successful, and I had to cut it in half. It was just such a massive life change that even though I was happy, I was needing to process that. And the best thing I could have done in that situation, which I fully regret, I'm doing it now, is I should have just stayed my little tail at home and ignored everybody and cocooned for a bit and just let myself adjust, right? But similar to what I think content creators feel, I felt this need to make sure that everyone knew, and that I kept performing like I had been doing before, as if I'm not a human and I don't need breaks and I don't need to settle down for a second, as if I don't go through real life things. And there is this pressure for content creators, especially really big content creators and content creators who are lifestyle creators, to continue to provide consistent joy. And I can tell you guys, for me, as an introvert, it is exhausting. It is exhausting to always have to be like, everything's so great, everything's fine. Because if you don't, then people speculate about what's going on in your life. And then they make up all these stories that are not true. And so for me, what I realized is I was literally got to a point where crippling anxiety, I was like about to break. And my husband was like, you need to cut everything off. Cut it all off. Nothing. Just do nothing for like 3 weeks. And I did that. And I felt great because I wasn't obligated to anybody. I didn't feel like I had to do something for someone and make people feel a certain way. And it was so relaxing and alleviating and so comforting to know, oh, okay, I don't actually have to perform for anybody right now. I can just be. I can just exist. And no one's going to ask me how married life is and how, like, no one's going to ask me these things. You know, I just get to live my life and adjust to this new environment that I'm in. And I think content creators would do well to do that. Now, I think the struggle is when you portray this life of like, just complete joy and everything's great, you don't really live in reality. What I'm seeing is a lot of these creators are living in virtual reality, which is their TikTok or their YouTube, and that's not real life. Like, most of their time is spent on this phone creating content. They're not going outside and having friendships with real people and engaging it, because the money's so good, right? The money is so good when you're a content creator, which means is the more content you make, the more followers you get, the more money you have. But the more pressure you also have to stay online and to keep delivering that same level of content. And that's a pressure cooker that nobody really needs to be in. And so, the escapism that we get from content creators is also an escapism for the content creator, right? Like if a content creator is feeling depressed, he is feeling overwhelmed, he goes on YouTube or he goes on TikTok and he doesn't have to live in reality. Especially as you become more popular, you pop on a live and there's like 400 people or 5,000 people on there. You don't have to live in reality. You have this parasocial friendship that you can just step into. You have these parasocial relationships you can just step into without having to deal with real life. And eventually it will become too much. So I just want to encourage you to be happy in real life. Like, figure out what makes you happy in real life, and also know that there's a certain amount of money that you will make that will make you happy, like that will bring you a peace, right? Because, bills and things will not be an issue. But then the rest of that is up to you to find true joy. And if that means going to a therapist, if that means talking to a psychiatrist to figure out the balance of your medication, if that means going off of social media for a month, like, take a social media break. That is okay. Like, get into community in real life, because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I mean, there's a song that says, I made $100,000 this year and nothing. And so what? Because six figures was kind of like back in 2000, I think that was in 2015, six figures was like the mark, right? If you made six figures, you were successful. But he wrote this song and he said, I made six figures and so what? What did it do for me? Yeah, it like paid my bills and things, but was I happy? No, because I didn't know how to be happy without money. I didn't know how to be happy outside of that. So finding things that you enjoy doing, and genuinely getting to know yourself. Like, for me, you guys, I like being alone. I really, really do. That is how I recharge. I don't mind hanging out with people, but I really like being alone and just relaxing or going for a hike. That is what gives me peace. And And if that's you, then that's you, right? And so figuring out something that you like to do, whether it's hiking, knitting, you know, editing, painting, find something that you love to do, enjoy it, and get into a community of people that love doing that as well. Read your Bible, go outside, get some sunlight, interact, you know, take a break from social media, things that are going to, so you can re-regulate your brain and re-regulate yourself. So, you know, you can actually be happy. But please do not get caught up in the world of content creation and money, thinking that that's going to be the thing that gives you happy. Money will give you some peace at some point. Like, I'm not going to even lie to y'all. Like, yes, not having to worry about if a medical emergency happens or any kind of emergency happens because you have so much money in your bank account is a level of peace that a lot of people won't have, but it won't necessarily bring you happiness. So anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts below, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Totally fine. Let me know your thoughts below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.